It was my 33rd birthday, and for the first time in a while, I wanted to do something that felt personal. Nothing flashy, nothing extravagant. Just something simple, something warm. A dinner with the people who mattered, my family. I'd made a reservation at a small, elegant restaurant just 15 minutes from everyone's homes. A private room, soft lighting, a pre-ordered menu, and a custom cake I'd picked up the day before. I even wore the navy blazer my mom gave me last Christmas. The plan had been in motion for weeks. I sent out invites via text and email. I followed up. Twice. I made sure no one could say they didn't know. No one replied with a no. No one said they had other plans. So I assumed we were good. I showed up 15 minutes early. The host led me to the private room, which looked just like I'd hoped, clean, intimate, beautifully set. A long table with silverware arranged neatly, white napkins folded like soft wings, candles flickering gently in their holders. It felt special. I wanted it to feel special. I thought it would. At first, I didn't worry when no one showed right away. My family was chronically late. Someone's kid probably had a last-minute meltdown. Maybe traffic. Maybe a wardrobe malfunction. I ordered a drink and scrolled through my phone, even smiled to myself, thinking how they'd all come rushing in eventually, out of breath and apologetic, trying to make up for lost time with laughter and hugs. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. I refreshed the group chat and texted. Hey, everything okay? I'm here when y'all are ready. No response. After 45 minutes, I started to feel that familiar thud in my chest. Not quite panic, not quite anger, just that dull ache of uncertainty. Embarrassment creeping in like a slow fog. I looked around at the table again. Still pristine. Still untouched. The waiter came over, gave me that look. The one where they tried to smile with their eyes but pity seeps through anyway. Would you like to go ahead and order? I shook my head. Give it 10 more minutes. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. I opened it without thinking. It was a photo. A group photo. My sister Kelsey, her husband, my parents, my younger brother Eli, even my cousin Nina and her boyfriend. All of them at a steakhouse across town. Clinking glasses, beaming into the camera like this was the highlight of their week. The caption? Family night with the real ones. #grateful, #blessed. At first I didn't move. My brain refused to process it. I stared at the photo, blinked, looked again. Then I checked the comments. My aunt had replied. Missing Noah! And Kelsey, with the grace of a knife to the back, responded. He had his own plans tonight, smiling face with smiling eyes. My own plans. My own plans were sitting in this silent, glowing room, waiting for the people I thought were mine. I wasn't sad. Not yet. I was just hollow. I sat there a few more minutes. Just breathing. Just watching the candlelight bounce off empty wine glasses and polished forks. Eventually, I stood. Left a tip that cost more than the drink I barely touched. Walked out into the cold Denver air with my hands in my pockets and something cracking inside my chest. I drove home in silence. No music. No podcasts. Just me and the sound of my tires grinding over snow-slicked streets. By the time I got to my apartment, something had shifted. This wasn't about a missed dinner. This wasn't about poor communication or scheduling conflicts. It was deliberate. Calculated. And I didn't even feel surprised. Because when I thought about it, really thought about it, this wasn't the first time. Not by a long shot. Last Christmas, they forgot to tell me the dinner had moved to Eli's house. 2 years ago, at Kelsey's bridal shower, she gave a teary speech thanking everyone who helped, except me. I'd paid for the custom decorations. They never tagged me in family group chats. Or if they did, I was always the last one added. But I kept showing up. I paid my mom's rent every month, transferred automatically so she never had to worry. I covered my dad's car insurance, same story. I helped Eli with his student loans when he missed a few payments. I covered Kelsey and her husband's honeymoon Airbnb when their budget fell short. And not once did I ask for recognition. I didn't even expect it. But maybe I should have. Because now, sitting alone in the dark of my living room, the only light coming from the soft glow of the untouched birthday cake still sitting in its box, I realized something. There's a difference between being generous and being used. I had spent years being the safety net. The fixer. The silent backer. And this was my return. Exclusion. Dismissal. A family photo posted without me in it. A seat at the table I paid for, empty. The message was clear. And this time, I heard it. Loud and unforgiving. So I didn't text back. I didn't call. I didn't beg for answers. Instead, I opened my banking app. And I started canceling things. One by one. The first message came the next morning. My phone lit up at 7:42 a.m., a call from my mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then came a text. Hey sweetheart, I think something went weird with the rent this month. Maybe the system glitched? Just checking in. Love you, 2 hearts. A glitch. Not. Sorry we missed your birthday. Not. Are you okay? Not even. We messed up. Just. Why didn't the money show up? Then my dad texted a few hours later. Hey kiddo, got a notice from the insurance company. Looks like the payment didn't go through. Did your bank change or something? Call me when you fix it. Fix it. Like I dropped the ball. Like this was an oversight on my end, some forgetful little moment of human error. They had no idea I'd made a choice. No one connected the dots. No one thought, wait, maybe Noah's hurting. Or, maybe we did something wrong. Instead, it was just, where's our money? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because later that afternoon, the real storm hit. I posted a single story on Instagram. A photo of my birthday cake, still untouched, still whole. The caption read, Reminder, I'm the one who pays mom's rent and dad's car insurance. No tags. No names. No drama. But they saw it. Within an hour, my phone lit up like a slot machine. Kelsey was first. Are you serious right now? Then Eli. Dude, what is going on? Then the group chat. Mom. Noah, we saw your story. Is something wrong? Dad. Son, let's talk. What's happening? Kelsey. You're being dramatic. We didn't even know you cared that much about the dinner. Eli. Can we just chill for a sec? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew whatever I said wouldn't be heard. They'd already written their narrative. Noah's being oversensitive. Noah's overreacting. Kelsey even followed up with a voice note, her tone half annoyed, half dismissive. We didn't mean anything by it. It was just a spontaneous dinner. We thought you had plans. You're always doing your own thing anyway. I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell. My plans were with you. Instead, I went quiet. I didn't say anything, not to them, not to anyone. But I kept canceling. Mom's automatic rent payment? Gone. Dad's car insurance renewal? Cancelled. Eli's utilities? His now. I went through my finances line by line, subscription-like payments I'd set up without fanfare, just to make everyone's life easier. Wedding gift fund for Kelsey and her husband? Closed. Emergency transfer history for Nina's medical bills? Archived. Every tiny contribution I'd made in silence for years, I erased them. Not out of revenge. Out of clarity. And the silence? It wasn't just deafening. It was revelatory. By day 3, the panic had spread. Eli sent a string of messages. Bro, the power company just called me. Wait, did you stop paying it? Man, you could have just told me. Mom sent another voicemail, this one cheerful, but tight at the edges. Just wanted to check again about the rent, sweetie. Maybe the payment's delayed? Anyway, love you. Kelsey dropped a story on Instagram, her and her friends at a brunch spot, clinking glasses, caption. At least some people show up, nail polish, medium light skin tone. I rolled my eyes. The irony was suffocating. Day 4, the calls got sharper. Dad texted. It's not like you to be this cold. Kelsey DM'd me. You need to grow up. You're blowing this out of proportion. One dinner doesn't erase all the things we've done for each other. I read it. Then I read it again. All the things we've done for each other. I laughed. Out loud. Then I opened my notes app and started listing every financial act of support I'd done over the last 3 years. Mom's rent, $500 per month for 36 months equals $18,000. Dad's insurance, $210 per month for 36 months equals $7,560. Eli's utilities, $150 per month for 24 months equals $3,600. Nina's emergency dental surgery, $2,300. Kelsey's bridal fund, $4,000. Birthday gifts, Uber rides, last-minute Venmo loans, $6,000. Total, over $42,000. And not once had anyone said, how can we help you? Not once had anyone asked, are you okay? Not once had I gotten a card. A thank you? A real, honest moment of recognition. But now that I'd gone silent, now that I'd stopped showing up, now that the ATM known as Noah had shut down, they were all scrambling. On day 5, Eli showed up at my apartment. I opened the door, and there he was, wearing a hoodie, hands in pockets, trying to look casual. Hey man, he said. I didn't say anything. He walked past me like it was still his house. You mad? He asked as he flopped on the couch. I stood there for a moment, Then I said, "No. I'm not mad. I'm humiliated." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean I sat alone in a private room I paid for while you all had steak without me. And no one said a word? Not even a late text? And then Kelsey told the internet I had my own plans." He scratched his head. "We didn't think you'd care, man. You always seem so, I don't know, together. Like you don't need that stuff." I walked over to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water. "You mean because I pay for everything?" I said. He didn't respond. "You think being silent means I don't feel?" Still nothing. Then he mumbled. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. The rent office called. The insurance lapsed. You could have given them a heads up." I set the glass down gently. "I've been giving them a heads up every single month, in the form of quiet support. Without complaint. Without a single ask in return. And no one noticed. Until I stopped." Eli stood up, voice rising now. "So what, you're just going to cut everyone off? You think that fixes anything?" I looked at him calmly. "No. I think you cut me off the moment you decided I wasn't worth a seat at the table." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. "Fine," he muttered. "Do what you want. Just feels petty." I nodded. "Maybe. But so does excluding your brother from his own birthday." He left. And I stood there in my living room, alone again, but this time, with something new. Conviction. Because for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't sacrificing my peace for other people's comfort. And I wasn't going to apologize for it. Not anymore. It began slowly. A ripple of confusion disguised as mild inconvenience. The kind of thing that could almost be mistaken for coincidence, if I hadn't planned every single step. Day 6 after my birthday, I woke up to a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was sharp but strained, carrying that fake cheer she always used when trying to manipulate the tone of a conversation. "Noah, honey, I just got a call from the apartment office. They said the rent still hasn't gone through, and if it's not resolved by Friday, they'll start eviction procedures. I told them it must be a banking error. Anyway, just wanted to check. Call me, okay?" I played the message twice. Once to hear it, again to feel it. There was no "I'm sorry." No. "We miss you." No. "You didn't deserve what happened." Just panic. Just rent. Just a scramble to maintain the comfort she'd grown so used to without ever asking how it was maintained. An hour later, another message chimed in. This time from Dad. "Hey kiddo, I got a letter from the insurance company. Says the policy lapsed. Did your card expire or something? Would have been nice to get a heads up. I'm headed to the mechanic today, so just let me know when it's fixed. Not if, when. Not. Can you? You will." It wasn't that they were clueless. It was that they were entitled. That day, I didn't answer. I didn't respond. I opened my notes app instead and finished compiling the full list of everything I'd paid for over the past 3 years. Rent, insurance, bills, loans, holidays. Over $42,000. All while being treated like a footnote. Later that night, Kelsey texted me. "You're going to let Mom get kicked out over this? Really?" As if I were the villain. As if I hadn't spent 10 years making sure she had a home, electricity, warmth, and peace of mind. The gall. The audacity. I didn't respond. 2 days passed. Then 3. Eli texted again. "Just got off the phone with the power company. They're cutting service tomorrow unless I pay the balance." "You really shut everything off?" "Yes. I did. Without fanfare. Without announcement. Because no one ever asked when I started paying in the first place. No one ever wondered how the rent was magically always on time. How birthday dinners showed up. How late fees never seemed to reach the door. They never asked? They just received. Now they were realizing what it meant when I stopped. On day 9, I received an email from Kelsey, an all-caps subject line screaming through the inbox. "I can't believe you're doing this." She said I was selfish. That I was tearing the family apart. That I was acting like a child because I didn't get my way. What she didn't say was that she was sorry. What she didn't do was take accountability. Because in her version of events, I was overreacting. In her eyes, I was the problem. Not the dinner they excluded me from. Not the fake smiles or staged family photos where I was always the one taking the picture, never in it. Not the years I spent subsidizing their lives while they pretended they were doing me a favor by letting me. And even then, even now, I could have changed course. But I didn't. Because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about value. Mine. So I waited. Let the rent office send more letters. Let the car insurance lapse. Let the utilities pile up. Let silence grow heavier and harder to breathe. Let them feel what I had, being forgotten, dismissed, erased. By the second week, the group chat had become a graveyard. No texts. No memes. No updates. Just a scrollable silence that used to be filled with chaos. Then Mom tried again. This time, her message cracked a little. Noah, I don't know what we're supposed to do. They said we have until Friday? If not, they'll start the process. Why are you doing this? I almost answered. Almost. But I didn't. Because she still hadn't said the word. The one that mattered. Sorry. She hadn't acknowledged what they did. She only acknowledged what they lost. So I stayed silent. I waited another week. 7 days of missed calls, frantic voicemails, and messages that bounced between pleading and guilt-tripping. On day 15, Dad sent a voicemail that made me stop mid-lunch. Noah, listen. I don't know what happened. I know we've made mistakes. Your mom. Kelsey. Me too. But this insurance situation is serious. If something happens and I'm not covered. He paused. Please, son. Don't make us pay for something Kelsey did. That part hit different. Not because he said please. But because, for the first time, he said what no one else had said. Kelsey did something wrong. And he acknowledged that I hadn't. Still, I didn't call. Because even then, I needed to be sure they understood. So I sat down, opened the group chat, and wrote the message I'd rehearsed in my head 100 times. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. Hi everyone. I wanted to clarify a few things since there seems to be confusion. I didn't cut anyone off. I simply stopped doing things I was never thanked for. The rent. The car insurance. The bills, I did those things because I wanted to help. But I've come to realize my support was never appreciated. Just expected. I spent my birthday sitting alone in a restaurant I paid for. No one showed up. No one texted. Instead, you had a separate dinner and posted about it like I didn't exist. That wasn't an oversight. That was a message. And I heard it. So here's where things stand. I'm not going to pay for people who don't treat me like family. If that changes, we can talk. Until then, I'm prioritizing people who show up for me. Not just my wallet. I hit send. Then I watched the scene, icons appear, one by one. Kelsey was first. Of course. Her reply came less than a minute later. Wow. Way to make us all feel like garbage. Then Mom. I understand you're hurt, but don't punish everyone for one night. We love you. We always have. That one stung. Because it sounded true. But I knew it wasn't. They didn't love me. They loved what I could provide. That's not the same thing. Ray chimed in, trying to play neutral. I didn't even know it was your birthday dinner. Kelsey said you had other plans? Classic Ray. Always backing out when accountability knocked. Dad didn't reply in the chat. He sent me a private message. I messed up. You've done more for this family than any of us ever acknowledged. I let Kelsey run the show because it was easier. I should have stepped in. You didn't deserve what happened. If you're open to it, I'd like to sit down. Just us. That one I sat with. I didn't answer. Not right away. I wanted to see what they'd do without me. The following week, I learned Mom missed her rent deadline. Her building emailed me the overdue notice because I was still listed as emergency contact. I didn't call. I didn't pay. Dad had to pay out of pocket to renew his registration after the DMV flagged his expired insurance. He updated the policy himself. First time in 6 years. Eli? He Venmo'd me $40 with a note. For that time you covered me. It was small. But honest. Then came Saturday morning. A knock at my door. I checked the peephole. Dad. No warning. No texts. Just him on my porch, holding 2 coffees. I opened the door slowly. You drove all the way up here? He nodded. Handed me one of the cups. Didn't think you'd answer the phone. I let him in. We sat in silence for a while. Just sipped. Watched kids bike by. Then he said, I read your message. A few times. Think I needed to see it in writing. He exhaled. I didn't realize how blind I'd been. I let Kelsey do the talking. She's always been the loud one. You've always been the quiet one. I guess I let her fill the space. I nodded. She didn't just fill it. She weaponized it. He winced. Yeah. She did. Another pause. I'm not here to ask for anything. He added. I just wanted to apologize. Not because I'm losing something. But because I already lost something. You. And for the first time in years I believed him. Because he didn't blame me. He didn't beg. He just told the truth. And that was more valuable than every rent check I'd ever written. We talked for an hour. About everything. About nothing. No money changed hands. No promises made. Just honesty. The kind I'd waited my whole life to hear. That night, I sat on my couch and finally let the tears come. Not because I was sad. Because I was free. Because the mask had come off. And they were finally starting to see me, not as a wallet, or a fixer, or the guy who always showed up, but as a person. As Noah. The brother. The son. The man who'd stopped paying. And started reclaiming himself. It took time, more than I expected, but less than they probably hoped. After Dad's visit, things didn't change overnight. There wasn't some big tearful family reunion, no fireworks, no magical group hug where we all sat around laughing about how silly the misunderstanding was. That wasn't the point anymore. The point had shifted. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't waiting to be included. I wasn't hoping for recognition, or silently tallying the debt I had paid in emotional labor and quiet sacrifices. I wasn't playing the role of the good son, the dependable brother, the financial safety net they could all lean on while pretending I wasn't carrying their weight. I was just existing. Living my life without the pressure of being their invisible anchor. And they noticed. Kelsey was the first to crack, though true to form, she didn't come to me with vulnerability or accountability. She sent an email. Not a text, not a call, an email, carefully composed and borderline defensive. Half an apology, half a justification. I never meant for you to feel left out. She wrote. You've always been kind of distant, Noah. I thought you liked your space. I didn't think you cared about that dinner. Honestly, I thought you were better off without all the family chaos. She said the word sorry, once, tucked between a paragraph about how hard it is to juggle her job and her family and her social calendar. It wasn't malicious. Just oblivious. But I didn't reply. Not because I was still angry. I wasn't. I was just done pouring energy into people who never reciprocated. Mom called a few more times. At first, the messages were veiled in guilt. I don't know what we're supposed to do, the rent is past due, I'm getting older, Noah, I can't live with this kind of instability. She still hadn't said sorry either. But the tone changed. Her fifth voicemail was different. I miss you, she said, her voice softer. Not the rent. You. I miss hearing your voice. I know things went wrong. I just don't know how to fix them. That one I saved. I didn't respond, but I listened to it twice. Not because it was perfect, but because, for the first time, she was speaking to me, not the role I played. Eli texted too. Not often, but occasionally. You free for a beer sometime? You should see the new place. I paid for it myself. Kind of proud. Hey. I get it now. He never pushed. He didn't try to fix things with a grand gesture. He just showed up, little by little. I didn't accept every invitation, but I didn't ignore him either. One day, I dropped by his apartment unannounced. We watched a game, cracked open a couple beers, and didn't talk about anything heavy. That was enough. For the first time, I wasn't the one keeping us connected, and yet the connection was still there. Only this time, it didn't come with a bill. A month passed. Then two. I kept expecting them to snap back into old patterns, expecting the passive-aggressive comments, the guilt-tripping, the family means everything unless it costs us something attitude. But it didn't come back. At least, not in the same way. Mom missed her rent deadline again. The building sent me another automated notice. But she handled it. She figured it out without a call or a request or a subtle hint that I should step back in. Dad renewed his insurance on his own again. He even updated his own policy documents, for the first time in 6 years. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about them realizing they had to function without me, and maybe even appreciating what I'd done once it was gone. That's what I'd been waiting for all along. Not applause. Not reimbursement. Just recognition. A few months later, on a Sunday morning in spring, I got another knock on the door. This time, it was Mom. She stood on the porch, clutching a Tupperware container like it was a peace offering. Her eyes were puffy. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her coat was too big, like she hadn't planned on staying long. I opened the door but didn't say anything. She looked up and gave a small, tentative smile. I made the chili you used to like. I stepped aside. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. She walked into the kitchen like she used to, set the container on the counter, and looked around as if she'd forgotten the layout. Maybe she had. It had been years since she really looked at anything here. I poured us both some water and gestured to the couch. We sat. I don't expect you to forgive us, she said. I just want to talk. To start, somewhere. She didn't justify the birthday. She didn't try to downplay the years of silence. She just talked. About Dad's health. About how the rent had gone up. About how lonely the house felt without Eli or Kelsey or me around. And she asked how I was? Not what I could do. Not what I could give. But how I was. I told her the truth. That I was tired but lighter. That setting boundaries felt like coming up for air. That I missed the idea of family, but not the version I'd lived with for the last decade. She nodded. I think we all lost track of you, she said. You made everything so easy, we didn't notice you were bleeding. That was the closest she ever came to saying sorry. But it was enough. Because it wasn't the word that mattered, it was the clarity. That visit didn't fix everything. But it cracked something open. It made space. And from that space, something started to grow. Kelsey still posted pictures of her curated life. Brunches, gym selfies, perfectly filtered images of family dinners, with her friends. But the captions changed. No more subtle digs. No more smug pride. Just still images and silence. I didn't reach out. She didn't either. But for the first time, I felt okay with that. Some relationships didn't need to be repaired. They just needed to be removed. Ray never said anything. Which, honestly, felt on brand. Always neutral, always uninvolved, always convenient. I'd long since stopped expecting anything more. Dad called me again about 3 months after our porch conversation. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to tell me he'd started seeing a therapist. Don't laugh, he said. Old dog, new tricks. I didn't laugh. I just said, good. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee. Not to talk about the past. Just to check in. We did. A few times. It wasn't deep, but it was real. And I'd take real over perfect any day. And then came my next birthday. I didn't plan anything. No reservations. No cake. No group texts. I just turned off my alarm and let the morning happen. At around 10 a.m., Eli texted. Lunch? My treat. At noon, Dad called to say happy birthday and told me he was proud of me. At 2 p.m. I heard a knock. I opened the door to find Mom standing there with a small chocolate cake. No balloons. No theatrics. Just her. I didn't want to assume, she said. But I thought I'd try again. This time, I let her in. We ate cake on the couch, watched an old movie we both loved, and talked about nothing at all. And for the first time in over a year, I realized I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not rage. Not shame. Not exhaustion. Peace. The kind that comes not from being heard, but from knowing that you no longer need permission to exist. The kind that comes from standing your ground and realizing you're not standing alone anymore. I didn't go back to paying the bills. I didn't restart the auto payments. I didn't apologize for the silence, or for making them sit in it. But I did start something else. Conversations that weren't laced with obligation. Connections that weren't built on guilt. A family that, while still flawed, was beginning to understand that love isn't free. It's mutual. It's active. It shows up. Just like I used to. Only now, they had to meet me there. Not the other way around. So no, I didn't pay. I didn't apologize. And finally, after all those years, they saw me. There's a quiet kind of pain that comes from being taken for granted, not through harsh words or direct betrayal, but through years of silent expectation. It's the kind of pain that doesn't scream, doesn't bleed, doesn't leave visible wounds. Instead, it erodes you slowly. Softly. Until one day, you realize you've disappeared from your own life. This story isn't just about family. It's about value. About boundaries. About what happens when a person, year after year, gives without asking, shows up without question, supports without ever being supported in return. And what happens when they finally stop. The most powerful lesson here is this: kindness without boundaries isn't generosity, it's self-erasure. Noah spent over a decade being the silent helper. He paid bills. He solved problems. He caught every fall before it could reach the ground. And because he never asked for recognition, his family stopped offering it. Because he never said no, they assumed the answer would always be yes. Because he never asked for anything, they forgot he had needs too. It's easy to say. That's what family does. But the truth is, real love doesn't demand silence. Real family doesn't expect one person to carry the weight of many. There's a fine line between supporting the people you love and becoming the crutch that keeps them from standing on their own. And when someone only sees you as useful, not valuable, that's not love. That's utility. When Noah sat alone in that restaurant on his birthday, surrounded by empty chairs and a cake meant for people who never arrived, he didn't just feel forgotten, he felt invisible. And that invisibility wasn't new. It had just finally become undeniable. That moment, the one where his heart dropped as he saw the Instagram post of his entire family out to dinner without him, was a moment of clarity. Not anger. Not vengeance. Clarity. Because when people show you, over and over again, that they're willing to benefit from your presence without acknowledging your humanity, at some point you stop asking why, and start deciding when it ends. Noah's decision to stop paying wasn't petty. It wasn't revenge. It was truth. For the first time in his life, he stopped putting others' comfort above his own dignity. He didn't slam doors. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't wage war. He simply stopped. And in that silence, something extraordinary happened. They fell apart. Not because he punished them, but because they had no idea how much they relied on him until he wasn't there to hold the walls up. They had built lives on a foundation they never checked, never maintained, never appreciated. And when that foundation stepped away, it cracked. But here's the real heart of the story. The silence wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to reveal. It revealed which relationships were built on convenience, and which had the potential to grow. It revealed who would show up only when it was easy, and who might be capable of showing up when it was hard. It revealed what happened when Noah no longer made himself small so others could stretch. And eventually it revealed a family that, however slowly, began to understand what they had lost, and why. Another vital lesson from this story is that you don't owe anyone your energy just because you share blood. Family isn't about obligation. It's about effort. It's about showing up, yes, but also listening, respecting, and reciprocating. It's about seeing people not for what they provide, but for who they are. Noah never needed his family to repay him financially. He didn't keep receipts. He wasn't looking for applause. He just needed to be seen. To be valued. To be remembered on the one day that should have been impossible to forget. When they missed that day, not by accident, but by choice, it wasn't just a scheduling conflict. It was a message. So he sent one back. Not in words, but in action. By removing the lifeline they had come to see as permanent, he reminded them that no act of love is guaranteed. That care, when unacknowledged, can disappear. That kindness, when exploited, turns into resentment. And that sometimes, the most generous thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is to stop enabling their blindness. In the end, Noah didn't return to being the provider. He didn't step back into his old role. He didn't re-enable the cycle. But he did begin to rebuild, slowly and intentionally. And only with the people who showed a willingness to meet him, not at the finish line, but at the start. The ones who apologized. The ones who changed. The ones who didn't just miss the money, but missed the man. Because that's the final truth in all of this. When you stop giving, you see who was actually there for you, and who was just there for the benefits. And when you hold that line long enough, the right people will either rise to meet you, or fall away. Both outcomes are gifts. So if there's one lesson to carry forward, it's this. Don't wait until you're empty to protect your peace. Don't apologize for needing reciprocity. Don't confuse being needed with being loved. And above all, don't be afraid to stop showing up for people who never learned how to show up for you. Because sometimes, it's in the quietest act of walking away that we finally become seen.